Hey guys, it's Mrs. Brewer, and today we're going to read chapters 10 and 11 of Because of Winn, Dixie. And yesterday when we left off, Opal was at Gloria Dump's house, and she was going to tell her everything about herself. So let's find out what happens. Chapter 10. I told Gloria Dump everything. I told her how me and the preacher had just moved to Naomi and how I had to leave all my friends behind. I told her about my mama leaving, and I listed out the 10 things that I knew about her. And I explained that here in Naomi, I missed Mama more than I ever had in Watley. I told her about the preacher being like a turtle, hiding all the time inside his shell. I told her about finding Winn Dixie in the produce department and how because of him, I became friends with Miss Franny Block and got a job working for a man named Otis at Gertrude's Pets and got invited to Sweetie Pie Thomas's birthday party. I even told Gloria Dump how Dunlop and Stevie Dewberry called her a witch. But I told her they were both stupid, mean, bald-headed boys, and I didn't believe them. Not for long, anyhow. And the whole time I was talking, Gloria Dump was listening. She was nodding her head and smiling and frowning and saying, and is that right? I could feel her listening with all her heart, and it felt good. Well, you know what? She said when I was all done. What? Could be that you got more of your mama in you than just red hair and freckles and run fast. Really? I said. Like what? Well, like maybe you got some of her green thumb. Two of us could plant something and see how it grows and find out. Okay, I said. What Gloria Dump picked for me to grow was a tree. Or well, she said it was a tree. To me, it looked more like a plant, a baby plant. She had me dig a hole for it and put it in the ground and pat the dirt around it real tight, like it was a baby and I was tucking it into bed. What kind of tree is it? I asked Gloria Dump. It's a wait-and-see tree. What's that mean? Means you gotta wait for it to grow up before you know what it is. It's kind of fun. Can I come back tomorrow and see it? I asked. Child, she said, as long as this is my garden, you're welcome in it. That tree ain't gonna change much by tomorrow. But I want to see you too, I said. Said Gloria Dump. Well, I ain't going nowhere. I'll be right here. I woke up Winn Dixie. He had peanut butter in his whiskers, and he kept yawning and stretching. He licked Gloria Dump's hand before we left, and I thanked her. That night, when the preacher was tucking me into bed, I told him how I got a job at Gertrude's Pets, and I told him all about making friends with Miss Franny Block and getting invited to Sweetie Pie's party, and I told him about meeting Gloria Dump. Winn Dixie lay on the floor, waiting for the preacher to leave so he could hop up on the bed like he always did. When I was done talking, the preacher kissed me goodnight, and then he leaned over and he gave Winn Dixie a kiss too, right on top of his head. You can go ahead and get up there now, he said to Winn Dixie. Winn Dixie looked at the preacher. He didn't smile at him, but he opened his mouth wide like he was laughing, like the preacher had just told him the funniest joke in the whole world. And this is what amazed me most. The preacher laughed back. Winn Dixie hopped up on the bed, and the preacher got up and turned out the light. I leaned over and kissed Winn Dixie too, right on the nose, but he didn't notice. He was already asleep and snoring. Chapter 11. That night, there was a real bad thunderstorm. But what woke me up wasn't the thunder and lightning. It was Winn Dixie, whining and butting his head against my bedroom door. Winn Dixie, I said, what are you doing? He didn't pay any attention to me. He just kept beating his head against the door and whining and whimpering. And when I got out of bed and went over and put my hand on his head, he was shaking and trembling so hard that it scared me. I knelt down and wrapped my arms around him, but he didn't turn and look at me, or smile, or sneeze, or wag his tail, or do any normal kind of Winn Dixie thing. He just kept beating his head against the door and crying and shaking. You want the door open? I said. Huh? Is that what you want? I stood up and opened the door, and Winn Dixie flew through it like something big and ugly was chasing him. Winn Dixie, I hissed. come back here. I didn't want him going and waking up the preacher, but it was too late. Winn Dixie was already at the other end of the trailer in the preacher's room. I could tell it because there was a spring sound that must have come from Winn Dixie jumping on the bed. And then there was a sound from the preacher like he was real surprised. But none of it lasted long because Winn Dixie came tearing back out of the preacher's room, panting and running like crazy. I tried to grab him, but he was going too fast. Opal, the preacher said. He was standing at the door to his bedroom. His hair was all wild on top of his head, and he was looking around like he wasn't sure what was going on. Opal, what's going on? I don't know, I told him. But then there was a huge crack of thunder. One so loud that it shook the whole trailer. And Winn Dixie came shooting back out of my room and went running right past me, and I screamed, "Daddy, watch out!" But the preacher was still confused. He just stood there, and Winn Dixie came barreling right toward him like he was a bowling ball, and the preacher was the only pen left standing, and bam! They both fell to the ground. Uh-oh, I said. Opal, said the preacher. He was lying on his stomach, and Winn Dixie was sitting on top of him, panting and whining. Yes, sir, I said. Opal, said the preacher, louder this time. Yes, sir, I said louder. Do you know what a pathological fear is? No, sir, I told him. The preacher raised a hand. He rubbed his nose. Well, he said after a minute, it's fear things, a fear that goes way beyond normal fears. It's a fear you can't be talked out of or reasoned out of. And just then, there was another crack of thunder, and Winn Dixie rose straight up in the air, like somebody had poked him with something hot. When he hit the floor, he started running. He ran back to my bedroom, and I didn't even try to catch him. I just got out of his way. The preacher lay there on the ground, rubbing his nose. Finally, he said, Opal, I believe Winn Dixie has pathological fear of thunderstorms. And just when he finished his sentence, here came Winn Dixie again, running to save his own life. I got the preacher up off the floor and out of the way, just in time. There didn't seem to be a thing we could do for Winn Dixie to make him feel better. So we just sat there and watched him run back and forth, all terrorized and panting. And every time there was another crack of thunder, Winn Dixie acted all over again like it was surely the end of the world. The storm won't last long, the preacher told me. And when it's over, the real Winn Dixie will come back. After a while, the storm did end. The rain stopped, and there wasn't any more lightning. And finally, the last rumble of thunder went away. And Winn Dixie quit running back and forth and came over to where me and the preacher were sitting. And he cocked his head like saying, "What in the world are you two doing out of bed at this hour of the night?" And then he crept up on the couch with us in this funny way he has, where he kind of gets on the couch an inch at a time, kind of sliding himself onto it, looking in a different direction, like it's all happening by accident. Like he doesn't intend to get on the couch, but suddenly there he is. And so the three of us sat there. I rubbed Winn Dixie's head, and I scratched him behind the ears the way he liked. And the preacher said, "An awful lot of thunderstorms in Florida in the summertime." "Yes, sir," I said. I was afraid that maybe he would say, "We can't keep a dog who went crazy with pathological fear every time there was a crack of thunder." "We'll have to keep an eye on him," the preacher said. He put his arm around Winn Dixie. "We'll have to make sure he doesn't get out during a storm. He might run away. We have to make sure we keep him safe." "Yes, sir," I said again. All of a sudden, it was hard for me to talk. I loved the preacher so much. I loved him because he loved Winn Dixie. I loved him because he was going to forgive Winn Dixie for being afraid. But most of all, I loved him for putting his arm around Winn Dixie like that. Like he was already trying to keep him safe. That's the end of chapter 11. See you tomorrow for chapter 12.